So it's been about a year since we took a look at Samsung's first entry into the QD-OLED monitor space with the Odyssey OLED G8, and well, I guess it technically wasn't their first entry since MSI and Dell were both using Samsung's panels and launched their monitors first, but that doesn't really matter unless you're being unnecessarily pedantic, which we aren't. If you haven't already checked out the video on that monitor, now would be a great time, but I'll give you the 10-second version. We loved it. I thought it was fantastic. It was such a good monitor that we actually gave it the prominent center position in my workstation, but that doesn't mean it was perfect. It definitely had its flaws. For one, it was only a 1440p monitor, which I know I hear you saying it. 1440 is phenomenal, especially for a gaming monitor, but I'm rolling with a 4090, guys, and I want all 4 of those Ks that I paid for. Also, being Samsung's first gen QD-OLED panel, there were some legitimate burn-in concerns. And Samsung's Smart Hub often made it feel like you were using a smart TV that was also a monitor, and not a monitor that can do some smart TV functionality, which was a problem for a lot of people, myself included. There's also the issues with pixel fringing, which, to be fair, is an issue that all QD-OLEDs suffer. It just seemed to be a little more prevalent because of the lower PPI of the monitor. Finally, a curved screen is awesome for gaming, but myself, along with a lot of other users, really do prefer a flat panel, and there just wasn't an option from Samsung in that size range. But here's the great news. Samsung has allegedly addressed all of these issues and so much more with their 3rd gen QD-OLED panels. And yeah, while I'm aware that MSI's version of this monitor using the exact same panel has been around for a while, why don't you do a quick Google search and see if you can find one in stock. Go ahead. Yeah, that's what I thought. It has been sold out everywhere since launch and impossible to get. That's why I have been dying to get my hands on this thing, get it set up and running. All right, Samsung.
Show me what you got.
While we go ahead and get this thing unboxed, I could bore you with the specs and go through everything on the sheet, but why redo all the work that Samsung's phenomenal marketing team's already done for us? So while I'm down here in the corner getting this thing unboxed and ready to go, I'll let you guys take a look at what Samsung's marketing team has to say about this monitor. And if you don't care about all that stuff, just skip forward about 1 minute from now. right, so we got everything unboxed, and I left it like this because I wanted to take you through a cool new trick Samsung learned with the assembly process. But first, let's talk about the I/O. And I know it's hard for you guys to see. I'll throw a picture up of it on the screen right now because there's some really important call outs. If you recall, with the first Odyssey OLED G8, Samsung made the absolute asinine decision to go with mini DisplayPort and mini HDMI as their primary connectors. And I have no idea what possessed them to go with that choice. Aside from being harder to plug in, more fragile and less secure than their full-size counterparts, they were impossible to find, forcing people to choose between going with some sketchy off-brand cable you've never heard of, using some sort of adapter, or using the incredibly short, I think it was 5-foot cable that Samsung left for you in the box. I am happy to say that gone are those days. We now have a full-size HDMI 2.1, a full-size DisplayPort 1.4, and Samsung included 2 USB 3.0 ports as well as their upstream counterpart, so you can actually have USB hub functionality. Now, it's worth pointing out that MSI managed to squeeze in a USB-C DisplayPort alternate connector as well as 90-watt power delivery and do it for a price that's, well, we'll touch on the price later in the video, but let's just say that's one area Samsung's not really looking good. But back to what they did give us in the box. We have, obviously, our upstream USB-B cable. We have an HDMI 2.1, DisplayPort 1.4. Not sure if I grabbed the right one of those, that might have mixed them up. Your power block, of course, and it's a hefty power block because Samsung kept all of the power delivery external to get the monitor as thin as possible. It's actually a design choice that I really like. I'm pretty good at hiding cables underneath. I would rather the block be down by my feet than a big bulky monitor. You also have the remote for the aforementioned smart functionality. Touch on that again later. And finally, the stand. The stand is where Samsung did something really cool. You've all had the experience of trying to fumble and get this together and screw the wing nut at the bottom, and it's always just a pain in the ass. Gone are those days. Samsung came out with a new just drop and twist connector. That's it. I am going to peel first, because if I don't peel it now, I will never come back and get it. I'm terrible with that. That might actually be the quickest, easiest monitor assembly I have ever done. As far as the stand goes, look, I know a lot of you guys are gonna VESA mount this, which it is VESA compatible, but if you're gonna leave it on the stand, we do have height adjustment, fairly good swivel, and some tilt, a decent amount. Not a lot of tilt down. We have a very good amount of tilt forward. All in all, I mean, it's about what you would expect from this quality of monitor. My favorite part though is look at this thing. It is razor thin. And I mean, it is a sexy finish. I'm actually impressed. I'm always impressed by the finish and build quality of Samsung's products. Very rarely am I impressed by the price of Samsung's products, but at least you have some sort of feel on where your money's going. Okay guys, I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing all set up and connected to our rig, and through the magic of editing, we'll jump right into what you actually came here to watch, gameplay footage and seeing this monitor in all of its beautiful 32-inch 4K 240 hertz glory. But don't worry, if you actually care about the setup process, like I said, we're gonna daily drive this for about 30 days and we'll come back and do a second video where we go through the full setup and let you know our thoughts. First, I love a good pill pull. All right, don't go anywhere guys, we're gonna jump straight into checking out what the screen looks like. All right guys, so as promised, we got everything hooked up to the rig and we are running some Cyberpunk, and hey, look who stopped by, Greg. Hey. Now, I know you guys don't want to see the zoomed out view and you don't want to keep looking at me. You came here to see this monitor in all of its juicy 32-inch 4K 240 hertz gloriousness. So I'm gonna pause real quick, step out and get the camera set up, and you'll just kind of hear our voices in the background. I know it's hard to tell because you're watching on your phone or your computer, whatever your screen has, through the YouTube algorithm, through compression, and what my camera can actually capture. You're just gonna have to trust us, right, Greg? In a dark room, these colors pop. They can't see you nodding. Yes. Greg nodded yes.
Yes.
So yes.
I'm running from cops.
In spite of Samsung's choice to go with an anti-glare matte screen versus the gloss finish on all of their competitors, it's still gorgeous. I honestly in the dark can't tell. Personally, I'm a little bit of a fan of the glossy screens, but I have to admit, as far as matte finishes go, this is one of the least aggressive that I've seen. It really isn't noticeable in a dark room at all, right?
Give me this all day.
Hang on one second, guys. We're gonna crank all the studio lights up and let you get a shot of what it looks like in a bright room, because I think that's where this monitor is really gonna shine compared to its glossy counterparts.
It looks the same.
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys can see, like, we have the lights cranked up and I actually have two big studio lights behind us. Look, at the end of the day, whether you go with anti-glare or whether you go with glossy is really a personal choice. For me, typically, at least until today, I always leaned glossy, but I found it really hard to tell compared to my other OLEDs with all the lights off. And with the lights on, I mean, it is a clear advantage. Look, cinephiles and darkroom gamers tend to lean gloss, while people that daily drive this or sometimes have to fight light tend to lean matte. I can't answer that question for you. My best advice for you to do is go find a showroom close, go and see it for yourself.
Look how bright this is even with the lights on.
Yeah, and I can actually see the camera right now. I can tell that what you're seeing is not even coming through the camera. Like it's
crazy.
It's blowing out the ISO on the camera and like whiting out the whole thing. So
wow.
Yeah, like guys, you're gonna have to trust us. Like the display itself is stunning, which is phenomenal because there are a few negatives we have to talk about. We're gonna wrap up this gaming session and we'll jump to that real quick. All right guys, so I've shown you the assembly, like Greg's helped taking us through some of the gameplay footage and everything. There's a few key points we need to touch on before we wrap up this review. One is something that we glossed over initially, and that's sound. So the monitor does come with built-in 10-watt speakers. They sound okay. I'm gonna crank it up for you guys to hear, but let's not pretend that if you're the kind of person dropping what you're gonna drop on this monitor, that you're not wearing a high-end headset or speakers.
You already have a headset somewhere at this point.
But to be fair, it has it, so we should show it. It actually gets pretty loud.
I mean, I've heard worse.
Yeah, it exists. In a pinch, if your headset's dead and your speakers somehow also died at the same time and you absolutely have to game right now this second, it'll do. Like, there's nothing to write home about. I'm not gonna brag about it. It's got speakers. Again, if you're spending the kind of cash that this monitor costs, you've got speakers, you've got a good headset, but it's there, so we gotta talk about it, right?
Yep.
The second thing is the AI upscaling in the new CPU, the new processor that Samsung included in this. The best thing I'm gonna say about it is, I'm not gonna say anything about it. Like, I'm tired of it. Every manufacturer is AI this, AI that, everything's AI, and the thing is, none of it's AI. There's nothing AI. It's
AI.
The NQ8 processor does phenomenally good upscaling. But dear God, can we quit branding every single little thing AI? Like, it's just a marketing ploy at this point. I'm tired of it. I've heard a lot of the people be tired of it. It's got a great updated processor in it, and let's just leave it at that. Next knock is pixel fringing. It's a QD-OLED. It's gonna have pixel fringing. It's down to the sub-pixel structure and the way they're made. But what I can say is, I'm not a type of person that's ever been bothered by it, and if you are, this monitor's not gonna bother you. While you can't get rid of pixel fringing, you can up the resolution in the PPI to a point where it doesn't matter. Everything is so crisp and clear, you cannot see any fringing. I didn't have any issues with it. I mean, you can see right now, you're watching you see text on the screen. It's not an issue. If you daily drove this all day, every day, and you're super sensitive to fringing, maybe.
You would have to be looking for it at that point, and then you wouldn't have bought this anyway. Yeah. It's amazing.
But there is one knock that, it's a big one, and we've hinted at it the whole video. Currently it clocks in at $1,300 US. I mean, there's no way to dance around it. It's $1,300. The MSI counterpart to this, which is using the exact same panel, is $950, and they have an even lower version that's still using the same panel for $900. It just locks you out of firmware updates. Samsung's gonna have a hard time justifying keeping this at $1,300. At launch, they had a $300 gift card with it, and that's where we got ours. Came with a $300 gift card, so technically it was $1,000. I could see it being $50 better than the MSI just from the aesthetic standpoint. I like the way it looks. I like the design.
I mean, truthfully, I could justify this in my household over the $900 variant for the sheer fact that most of my stuff goes through Samsung SmartThings. I have my entire house hooked up to it. It's a ease of use thing. It's a very French case, but that's a mild justification I could throw out there.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at. At this price point, at $1,300, you're gonna have to find a reason to buy this monitor versus finding a reason not to buy it. And for me to hardcore recommend a product, I have to be in that other category. I have to go, man, I can't justify not getting this over something else. It's that much better. If you look at the Odyssey OLED G8 from last year, you rarely see that thing over $700-800, and it launched at $1,300, the same price. So if you want this, and the current pricing whenever you're shopping for it, because I don't know when you're watching this video, is $1,300, I would tell you to maybe hold off. Check out the MSI. We'll also have that link down in the description, as well as this monitor. If you absolutely have to have it, it's your money. It's not my job to tell you how to spend it. It wouldn't be the purchase I would make at that price. All right, guys, make sure you come back and check out our full review after we daily drive this monitor for the next 30 days or so. As of right now, at $1,300, it's gonna be a meh for me. If you can get the price lower, if that $300 promo comes back, absolutely jump on it. We'll have this monitor as well as some of its competitors linked down in the description. Remember to like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't like it. Leave us a comment. As always, thanks for watching, and hey, maybe check out one of these other videos.